3 years after calling Diana boring and difficult, James walked into their mutual friend's wedding with a new woman on his arm, expecting the room to confirm he had made the right call. By the time dessert arrived, he was sitting alone. His date had left. His confidence had nowhere to land. And Diana was on the dance floor laughing with the man who had come directly from the airport without stopping to change his shirt. That is the thing about people who are genuinely at peace. They do not need the room to see it. The room just does. Before we go any deeper into this story, please like this video, subscribe to her drama tales, and tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from. And while you are there, drop one word that describes how you felt the moment you realized someone had underestimated you. One word. We are reading every single one. Now let us get back into the story. The invitation did not come from Lauren. It came from David. That was the first thing Diana noticed when she saw the message on a Wednesday evening. Not a cream envelope. A voice note, 38 seconds, from a man she had known since she was 22 years old. David and James had been best friends since secondary school. David and Diana had become friends through that connection, the way people do when they spend enough years in the same group, eating at the same tables, laughing at the same things, until the friendship becomes its own thing entirely separate from whatever brought them together. When James ended the engagement 3 years ago, Diana had expected David to disappear. That was how these things usually worked. The friends divided along the original fault line, and you lost the ones who had come through the other person. David had not disappeared. He had called her 2 days after it happened. Not to take sides. Not to explain James or defend him, or offer a version of events. He had called to say he was sorry it had gone that way, and that he valued the friendship, and that he hoped she knew that. She had not expected that either. They had stayed friends. Occasional dinners. Messages when something reminded one of them of the other. The specific low-maintenance friendship that survives because both people in it are honest and neither of them needs anything dramatic from it. So when the voice note came, it sounded like this. Diana, Thomas and Lauren. 2 weeks Saturday. I know James will be there. I also know you have not done anything wrong, and I am not going to pretend you should stay home because of him. Rachel is coming. Morris, obviously. I want you there. Lauren wants you there. Think about it and call me back. Diana listened to it twice. Then she called Rachel. Rachel answered before it had finished ringing. I already said yes, Rachel said. Before you ask. David called you too. David called everyone. He is very organized for a man who once forgot his own birthday. James will be there. I am aware. He told people I was boring, Rachel. He said being with me felt like work. He said it to people we both knew, and some of them believed him. Some of them, Rachel said. Not David. Not me. Not Lauren. Not the people who actually know you. A pause. Diana, go to the wedding. Wear the green dress. Let the evening be what it is. What if it is uncomfortable? It will be uncomfortable for approximately 4 minutes, Rachel said. And then you will find something that needs fixing, and you will fix it, and you will forget he is even in the room. Diana almost smiled. You make it sound very simple. It is simple, Rachel said. He is not the main character of Lauren's wedding. Lauren is. Go and be there for Lauren. Diana looked at the fruit bowl on the counter. The green dress was already in her mind. She had known that before she called Rachel. She just needed to say it out loud to someone first. Fine, she said. Good, Rachel said. Also, Morris is flying in that morning. David already knows. Everything is handled. You just have to show up. You and David planned this. We coordinated, Rachel said. There is a difference. The morning of the wedding, Diana woke before her alarm. She was not anxious. She was the way she got before things that required her to be fully present. Quiet, moving deliberately through the morning without rushing any of it. She had pressed the green dress the night before. Done her hair the way she liked it, simple, off her face, the kind of result that looks unconsidered but is not. She was clipping a small earring when Morris called at 8:50. How are you feeling? He said. Fine. Actually fine, not performing fine. Good. A beat. The flight is on time. I will come straight to the venue. You do not have to rush. I know I do not have to, he said. I want to. She smiled at her reflection. I will see you there. She picked up her bag, checked herself once more in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was not performing anything. She was just dressed and ready and herself. That was enough. It had always been enough. It had just taken her a while to understand that the people who could not see it were not a reflection of her. They were a reflection of what they were looking for. She drove to the venue. The estate was everything Lauren had described for 6 months, and then some. Old stone. Tall windows. A garden that smelled like someone had made decisions about every single plant, and those decisions had been correct. Diana arrived 30 minutes before the ceremony and went directly to find Lauren. The bridal suite was warm and slightly chaotic. Lauren was in her dress, surrounded by 3 people all trying to help simultaneously, and wearing the expression of a woman who is the happiest she has ever been and also mildly overwhelmed by the logistics of that happiness. She saw Diana and her whole face changed. "You came," Lauren said, like she had not been entirely certain until this moment. "Of course I came," Diana said. They hugged carefully, the kind that tries to protect the hair. Diana stepped back and looked at her. "Lauren." "Do not," Lauren said. "Do not, or I will cry, and we have not even started." Diana pressed her lips together. She looked around the room, noticed the flower arrangement near the window immediately. One stem had slipped, and the left side was leaning at an angle that would bother anyone with functioning eyes. She went to it while Lauren was turned back to the 3 people. She adjusted the stem, repositioned 2 of the flowers. The arrangement sat balanced. Lauren's mother was watching. She touched Diana's arm. "She does not even think about it," the woman said quietly, to no one in particular. "She just sees it and fixes it." Diana went back to Lauren. She found the earring back that had rolled under the chair. She held the bouquet while someone sorted a small issue with the back of the dress. She got a glass of water when Lauren admitted she had not had anything to drink since 6 that morning. None of it was performed. This was just how Diana moved through spaces. She noticed what needed doing and she did it. She had always been this way. James had called it exhausting. He had said she could not help rearranging everything. Lauren's mother would have called it something else entirely. Diana left the bridal suite and went to find her seat. She was sitting next to Rachel when things got complicated. The ceremony was about to start. The room was full and warm and anticipatory. Rachel was wearing red as predicted and was currently making a face at the flower arrangement on the end of their pew. "That one is slightly off," Rachel whispered. "I know," Diana said. "I did not have time. You fixed the one upstairs." "Someone had to." Rachel opened her mouth. Then she stopped. Her eyes moved to somewhere past Diana's left shoulder, and her face did a very specific thing. The controlled thing. The thing it did when Rachel was deciding in real time how to behave. Diana breathed once. She turned. James had come in late. 2 rows behind them on the other side. Dark suit, 1 degree too sharp for the occasion, the kind of sharp that is dressed to be looked at. He had a woman with him. Brianna. Diana did not know her name yet. She took her in quickly. The dress, calibrated for a different room. The way she was already glancing around and forming an opinion of the venue the way someone reviews a restaurant that did not quite meet expectations. She leaned toward James and said something, and he smiled and looked forward, and his eyes caught Diana's for a fraction of a second. Diana looked at him. Level. Unhurried. Then she turned back to the altar. Rachel's hand found Diana's wrist under the order of service booklet. Not squeezing. Just placed there. The music started. Lauren appeared at the end of the aisle. Thomas cried before she reached him. The room filled with something warm and entirely real, and Diana let it be exactly that and nothing else. The reception moved into the garden and the long hall. David found Diana within the first 5 minutes. He was tall and slightly rumpled in the way he always was at formal events, like the suit had been pressed by someone else, and he had done his best to maintain that since. He hugged Diana properly, the kind of hug that means something, and held her at arm's length afterward. "You look well," he said. And he meant it simply, without implication. "So do you," she said. "Relatively speaking." He looked down at his jacket. Rachel already made a comment about the lapel. Rachel makes comments about everything. Yes, but she is usually right. He looked around the room. Then back at Diana. A quick, honest look. "He is here. You saw." "I saw. Are you okay?" "David." "Yes." He nodded once. He believed her because he knew her well enough to know the difference between her performing fine and her being fine. "Morris lands at 2, he said. "He messaged me from the gate. He will come straight. You are all very coordinated." "We like you," David said simply. "It is not complicated." He straightened slightly. "I am going to go find Thomas. But Diana, if he starts anything tonight, I want you to let me handle it." "You do not need to." "I know I do not need to," David said. "I am going to anyway. That is what friends are for." He went to find Thomas. Rachel appeared at Diana's shoulder approximately 4 seconds later. What did he say? He said if James starts anything, he will handle it. Rachel considered this. I was going to handle it. I know you were, Diana said. That is exactly why David said it first. James found Diana near the drinks table before the first course. She had known he would. She had given it about 20 minutes, and he had taken 18. She was talking to a woman she had not seen in 2 years when she felt the particular shift in the air that precedes an unwanted conversation. Diana. His voice. That specific volume, slightly too large for the space, designed to land on more than just the intended recipient. I thought I saw you earlier. She turned. James. Congratulations to Thomas. You two go back a long way. He smiled. The smile that arrived already knowing it was working. You look well. Thank you. The half-turn. The presentation. This is Brianna. Brianna's smile did the scan and filed its verdict in under 2 seconds. Hi. Pleasant. Hollow. Hello, Diana said warmly. The venue is beautiful. Lauren spent months on the garden. Brianna glanced toward the garden. It is. Very traditional. I probably would have gone more contemporary, but it fits her. I think it fits her perfectly, Diana said. James was watching Diana the way someone watches a surface they are trying to find a crack in. So, what are you doing these days? How are things? Really well, Diana said. You? Great. He said it the way people do when great is meant to establish a position. Brianna and I have been together almost a year. She runs her own business. He said this slightly past Diana, at the general air around her. That is wonderful, Diana said. A pause. You came alone? James said. Morris is coming from the airport, Diana said. She picked up her glass. Delayed flight. I hope you both enjoy the evening. She turned toward the garden. James's voice followed her. Morris, he said. To Brianna, but loud enough. She always liked having someone waiting in the wings. Diana kept walking. Behind her she heard Rachel's voice, pleasant and even. That is an interesting thing to say at a wedding, James. Diana stopped. She turned back. Rachel was standing exactly where Diana had left her, glass in hand, expression composed, looking at James with the specific calm of someone who has decided to say the thing directly rather than around it. James looked slightly caught. I know what you were doing, Rachel said. Still pleasant. Still even. She heard it too. She just chose not to respond to it. That is the difference between you two, actually. Has been for 3 years. The woman Diana had been talking to looked at her drink. James opened his mouth. David appeared. Not dramatically. He simply stepped into the space the way tall men can, taking up room without effort. He put his hand briefly on Rachel's shoulder. Rachel, can you help me find the seating coordinator? I think there is a mix-up at table 6. Rachel looked at him. Understood immediately. Of course. She looked at James once more. Then she walked away with David. James stood there for a moment. Brianna was looking at him with an expression Diana could not fully read from where she was standing. Something was moving behind her eyes. A small recalculation. Diana met James's gaze. Enjoy your evening, she said. And she meant it. Not as a performance. As the most honest thing available. She walked to her table. The first course arrived. Diana was seated with people she liked, and the conversation was easy in the way it is when no one is performing for anyone. Real topics. Real laughter. The kind of table where you forget to check the time. Brianna was 3 tables across. She was photographing her starter from above when the flash went off directly into the face of the woman sitting opposite her. The woman blinked. Said nothing. Adjusted her position slightly. Brianna repositioned. Photographed again. The woman moved her wine glass 2 inches to the left, out of frame, with the quiet efficiency of someone who had made a decision. Rachel leaned toward Diana. That is the 3rd time she has moved her glass. Rachel, I am just observing. You are observing with editorial commentary. The commentary is internal, Rachel said. I am only sharing the facts. The flash went off again. Across the room, a man at Brianna's table pretended to check his phone. Another guest became suddenly very interested in the centerpiece. Diana ate her soup. It was good, herby and warm in a way that felt intentional rather than accidental. She did not look at James's table again for the rest of the first course. Between courses, Diana noticed the flower arrangement by the entrance had started to lean. She recognized it immediately. She had passed it when she arrived. The stem structure had always been slightly precarious. She got up, crossed the room, and fixed it. She was settling the last stem when she heard James's voice behind her. "Classic Diana," he said. He was passing with a fresh drink, heading back to his table. He said it to Brianna, who was with him. "Cannot even attend a wedding without rearranging the furniture." Brianna smiled politely at the joke. It did not fully reach her eyes. The woman at the nearest table, someone Diana did not know, looked up from her conversation. "Did she fix that?" "Yes," said the man beside her, who had been watching. "Second time tonight, apparently. She did the one upstairs, too." "The florist should have caught that stem," the woman said. She looked at Diana with something that was not quite admiration and not quite sympathy, but was somewhere between the two. Diana smiled and went back to her table. James stood near the entrance for a moment with his drink and his joke that had not landed, and his girlfriend, who was now looking at him instead of Diana, which was not the dynamic he had been engineering. Morris arrived during the main course. Side entrance. Travel clothes, no time to change, direct from the airport. He scanned the room, found Diana, and the scan stopped. He walked to the table, touched her shoulder. She turned. "The flight," he said. "I know. Sit. Are you hungry?" "I ate at the gate." He sat beside her. Looked at her face carefully. "How are you?" "Good," she said. Genuinely. He held her eyes for one more second. Accepted it. Reached for the water jug. David leaned across the table. "Morris." "David." They shook hands with the ease of men who have met enough times to be past the formal version of greeting. "Thank you for the messages." "Thank you for coming straight," David said. He glanced briefly across the room. "You should know he is here." "I assumed," Morris said. "He made a comment earlier." "What kind?" "The kind," David said, "that Rachel was about to turn into an incident before I redirected her." Morris looked at Rachel. Rachel was eating her main course with perfect composure. "She looks fine," Morris said. "She is saving it," David said. Morris nodded. He picked up his water glass. Then he looked across the room to where James was sitting. James was already looking back. The two men held eye contact for a moment. Not aggressively, just the specific acknowledgement of two people who understand exactly what situation they are in. James looked away first. Morris turned back to Diana. "The soup was good," he said. "Very," she said. "Good." He reached for the bread. James watched this from 3 tables across. He had expected Morris's arrival to land differently. He had imagined something he could assess and find wanting. A man who would look out of place, or who would perform too hard, or who would arrive and immediately start managing Diana the way James had always felt he needed to. Morris had arrived in a creased shirt direct from an airport and immediately started talking to David about nothing in particular while pouring himself water. He had not looked at James again after that first moment. That was somehow worse than if he had. Brianna said something beside him. He caught the end of it. "Sorry," he said. "What?" "I said the main course is good." She was looking at him. The looking had a quality to it he could not quite read. "Yes," he said. "It is." She turned back to her plate. The speeches. Thomas's best man was funny in the way that slightly embarrasses the groom, and Thomas survived it with good grace. Thomas's mother said something so plainly true that the room went quiet. Then Lauren stood. She thanked Thomas. She thanked her parents. She moved through the people who had been part of the years that led to this day. Then she looked across the room and found Diana. "There is someone," Lauren said, "who has been my person for 15 years. She fixed my flower arrangement this morning when I could not breathe. She found my earring back under a chair. She got me water when I forgot I was a person who needed water." She paused. "Tonight she fixed the one downstairs too, apparently. Twice." Light laughter from the room. Lauren's eyes were bright. "Diana, I love you. Thank you for always being the one who notices." The room applauded. Rachel put her hand on Diana's arm. Diana looked at her hands for a moment. Then she looked up at Lauren and smiled. David caught her eye from across the table and raised his glass slightly. Just that. 3 tables away, James was very still. Brianna was looking at him. He could feel it without looking back. The dancing started. The floor filled and Lauren and Thomas had their first dance, and it was the kind that makes everyone in the room feel something true about the possibility of choosing correctly and being chosen correctly in return. Morris held his hand out. Diana took it. They were not performing. They moved the way people move when they have danced together before and expect to dance together again, and the space between those two things is comfortable rather than tentative. Diana was not tracking James. She was not monitoring the room. She was dancing with Morris at her friend's wedding, and that was the entire contents of the moment. Rachel appeared beside them with David, which was unexpected. David danced with the specific self-consciousness of a man who does not dance often, but has committed to the decision. Rachel was coaching him in real time with the patience of someone who finds this genuinely amusing. Diana laughed. A real one. Unplanned. Morris smiled at her when she laughed. Not at the joke. At the laugh itself. Brianna wanted to leave during the dancing. Diana saw it happen. She was not looking for it. She was turning on the dance floor, and her eye caught the table 3 across, and she saw Brianna leaning toward James. Close. The specific lean of a private conversation in a public space. James shook his head slightly. Brianna said something else. Her body language had changed from the beginning of the evening. The bright performative quality was gone. She looked tired in a specific way that had nothing to do with the hour. James looked at the dance floor. At Diana and Morris. Diana saw him look, and she turned back to Morris and kept dancing. 30 seconds later she turned again, naturally, as the music moved her, and Brianna was standing. She had her bag. She said something brief to James. He said something back. She looked at the dance floor one more time, at Diana specifically, and Diana saw it happen, saw the moment something was understood and filed away, and then Brianna turned and walked toward the exit. Not dramatically. Not in tears. Just with the quiet decisiveness of someone who has made a calculation and acted on it. James sat alone at the table. He did not follow her. He sat with his wine glass and the empty chair and the folded napkin where she had been. Diana turned back to Morris. She left, she said quietly. I saw, Morris said. Is he okay? Morris looked at her. You are asking if he is okay. He is still Lauren's guest. Morris considered this for a moment. He is sitting down, he said. He is fine. Diana nodded. She let the music take the next few minutes. The desserts arrived. Diana and Morris returned to the table. David was already there. Rachel was beside him with her wine and the expression of a woman who has processed the evening's events and arrived at a favorable verdict. She left, Rachel said. I saw, Diana said. Before dessert. Rachel. I am simply noting the timeline. Rachel picked up her wine. The dessert looks excellent, by the way. It was excellent. Pastry and cream and a raspberry that was exactly the right level of tart. Diana ate it and talked, and the table was warm the way good tables are at the end of good evenings. Across the room, James ate his dessert alone. A waiter came to clear Brianna's untouched plate and paused for just a moment, professionally, and then cleared it without comment and moved on. James looked at the space where the plate had been. He looked at the dance floor. He picked up his wine glass and put it down without drinking. David saw this from across the room. He said nothing. He made a small sound that was not quite anything and went back to his conversation. Near the end of the evening, James came to find Diana. The room had softened. Music lower. Candles burned to comfortable stubs. People gathered in smaller conversations. He found her near the edge of the dance floor where she was standing with Morris. He approached with the specific energy of a man who has rehearsed an approach and is now slightly less certain of it than he was 20 minutes ago. Diana, he said. Can I have a moment? Morris looked at Diana. Not asking permission. Checking. Diana nodded slightly. Morris stepped back a few feet and turned to talk to David, who happened to be nearby. Not abandoning her. Just giving her the space to handle her own conversation. James stood in front of her. He looked like the evening had asked more of him than he had budgeted for. Congratulations are in order apparently, he said. He meant Morris. He could not quite say it directly. Thank you, Diana said. He looked at her. Searching for something. You seem good. I am good. I heard what Lauren said. In the speech. Yes. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I said some things. After. About you. To people. I know, Diana said. I should not have. Diana looked at him. She thought about the things he had said. Boring. Difficult. That being with her felt like work. She thought about the people who had heard it and believed it, and the ones who had not. She thought about 3 years of building a life that had nothing to do with his version of her. No, she said. You should not have. He waited for more. There was not more. She had said the true thing, and she was not going to perform additional emotions around it to make him feel better or worse. He nodded slowly. He looked at the floor. He seems like a good man. Morris. He is. James looked up. He opened his mouth. Something was working through him that had not finished working through him yet. Before he could find the words, David appeared beside Diana. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just stepped into the space. James, David said. Pleasant. Level. He looked at his old friend with the specific expression of someone who has known you long enough to say a hard thing without it becoming a war. You came tonight and you made your comments and you sat through the evening and you watched. I think you have your answer now. Whatever you came looking for. James looked at him. Go home, David said. Simply. Get some sleep. Figure out what you actually want. But not here. A long moment. Then James nodded once. He looked at Diana. Take care of yourself, he said. You too, she said. And she meant it. Not warmly. Not coldly. Just truly. He left. David watched him go. Then he looked at Diana. You all right? Yes, she said. Good. He straightened his jacket. The dessert is very good, by the way. You should get some before it is gone. Lauren found Diana an hour later. The room was nearly empty. Warm end of evening light. The music a low hum in the background. Lauren took both of Diana's hands. Thank you, she said. For today and for all the days before today. I love you, Diana said. That is the whole of it. Lauren's eyes went bright. You look happy. Diana glanced at Morris across the room, talking to Thomas, jacket off, entirely at ease. I am, she said. You always deserved it, Lauren said. Not comfort. Fact. Long-held fact. Always. They hugged properly. The kind that is not in a hurry. Go be with your husband, Diana said. Lauren laughed and went. They left around 10. David hugged Diana at the door. Good evening, he said. Good evening, she said. Thank you. For everything tonight. That is what friends are for, he said. He looked at Morris. Take care of her. She takes care of herself, Morris said. I just show up. David smiled. That is the whole job, he said. In the car, Diana leaned back against the seat. The venue lights shrank in the mirror. The air through the cracked window was cool and clean. Tired? Morris said. The good kind. He drove. The comfortable quiet of two people who do not need to fill every space. He apologized, Morris said. Not a question. Partially, Diana said. He said he should not have said the things he said. That is something. It is something, she agreed. Not everything, but something. Morris nodded. David told him to go home, Diana said. Morris made a quiet sound. Good. He was not cruel about it. He just said it directly. That is David. Diana looked out the window at the city moving past. I do not feel triumphant, she said. I just feel like the evening is over, and it was mostly good, and tomorrow I am going to make coffee and read something, and that is going to be enough. Morris reached across and briefly held her hand, then put his back on the wheel. That sounds exactly right, he said. James drove home alone. He had called Brianna from the car park. She had answered. The conversation was short and not warm, and ended with an agreement to talk tomorrow that felt like an agreement to talk about how things were going to end. He stood in his flat in the quiet. He went to the bedroom. Second drawer. Moved the papers. The ring in its box. He picked it up. Turned it over once. He thought about Diana placing it on the table 3 years ago. The quiet of that moment. He had read it as defeat. As her giving up. He put the ring back in the box. He closed the drawer. He stood in the quiet of his flat and thought about David saying whatever you came looking for. He thought about what he had come looking for. He thought about whether he had found it. He had come to confirm that he had been right. He had sat through an evening that confirmed something else entirely. Not that she was better than him, or that she had won something and he had lost it. It was simpler and less dramatic than that. He had let go of someone who was exactly who she was, completely and without apology, and he had called that boring because he had not known what to do with it. He understood now what to do with it. He understood now because he had watched someone else do it all evening, and it had looked like the most natural thing in the world. He turned off the bedroom light. He did not sleep quickly. The lesson of this story is not about James understanding too late. It is about what Diana did not do. She did not go to that wedding to prove anything. She did not position herself. She did not engineer moments or wait for James to expose himself or perform her happiness for his benefit. She fixed flower arrangements. She danced with the man who came from the airport without changing his shirt. She ate the dessert when Rachel told her to eat the dessert. She listened to Lauren's speech and felt it genuinely and looked at her hands for a moment, because that is what you do when something true is said about you in a room full of people. That is all she did. And the room arranged itself around that. The way rooms do when someone in them is not performing anything. Brianna left before dessert not because Diana beat her at something. She left because she had spent an evening watching a woman exist completely in her own life, and she understood, without being able to fully name it, that she was not in the same kind of story. She had thought she was the prize. She realized she was the placeholder. James went home alone and stood in front of the second drawer and thought about a woman who had placed a ring on a table without throwing it and walked out without a speech. He had called that boring. He had 3 years of evidence about what boring actually looked like. And David said one quiet sentence and James went home. That is what a real ally does. Not a speech. Not a performance. One sentence at the right moment, and then back to enjoying the evening. Some lessons arrive loudly. Some arrive as a woman in a green dress eating her dessert, while the man who underestimated her sits alone 3 tables away. Both kinds land. The quiet ones tend to last longer. But now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a room with someone who wrote a story about you that was not true, and realized somewhere in the middle of that evening that you had completely outgrown the story they were still telling? Or have you ever had a David in your life? Someone who showed up quietly, said the one thing that needed saying, and then went back to enjoying themselves like it was nothing. Tell us in the comments. Drop your story. We read every single one, and your experience matters in this community. If this one stayed with you, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that the most powerful thing you can do in a room full of people who underestimated you is simply be yourself so completely that the room has to adjust. Subscribe to her drama tales if you have not already. We will see you in the next drama.